This podcast is a production of Unfiltered Studios. If you would like to know more about joining Unfiltered Studios, please visit our website at unfpod.com for more information.
Coming soon on cable, your stereo and TV unite to bring you video music in stereo 24 hours a day. You better run! You better hide! Back on turn MTV Music Television in stereo. You'll never look at music the same way again.
More music. MTV, more of your favorite music. MTV Music Television.
Welcome back, Oreo Brewer.
Yup.
Don't call him Kevin.
Nope.
Hi, Oreo.
Welcome. Everything is a primary source. Podcaster himself.
Can we try this again? That's
Yeah.
better. Sorry about that. Embarrassingly, I didn't even have my microphone plugged in.
Oh, so
I've been setting this thing up and down, so I apologize.
All good. So for those who don't know, you are just as retro as these guys. You chronicle various dates, on this day, this radio single, debuted, it's just all kind, but mostly movies. But I just love the pop culture savvy.
Yeah, I live retro. I live pretty much in multiple time periods. It seems everything but the present. And
my career did a lot of radio. I listen to a lot of my college radio stations, and I'm always just tickled by when they do a recap. It's like, on this day in history, this president got sworn in, or this cultural phenomenon was born, or this kind of toy debuted at supermarkets. It's always just fun seeing those little tidbits. It's like, yeah, and it's still here today.
Yeah.
In 1963, I Want to Hold Your Hand was played on a United States radio station in Washington, D.C. for the first time ever.
Sweet.
It was leaked. It was brought over here. It wasn't released as a single yet. Parlophone, somebody brought the Parlophone copy in. They played it on the air. Parlophone got pissed off, but it laid the groundwork for the Beatles to come to America, because everybody was like hearing the song, and DJs were asking for copies for it. So Capitol kind of jumped.
This. British invasion, let's go.
Yeah.
No, Cam. It was more like, hey, I need to get a little sack of that whack there, but it's whack.
You had to have more yucks in between the.
Hey, here are four guys from Liverpool. Where the hell is that? Oh, it's somewhere over in England. Hey, next up, Tommy V and the Shandarellas with their new hit, Baby, I Love You. Then Frankie Valli and the Four Seasons, Why Am I So Short With You? Then Fabian, Where's My Career?
Oh my God. We're going to town with the DJ stuff. See what you've entered into here, Eric.
And we haven't even broke out the Casey Kasem yet.
And
which I will do
we're
at
on the
this
verge
point right now.
We're on the verge.
So now, request and dedication.
Oh man.
Turn of the century, MTV2 ran every video to date alphabetically, and I just went nuts and recorded a bunch of them, so that's what's on the background
Holy
here.
shit.
For those who can't see, Mike is wiser. He always has a video going on that gets us in the mood to where we're like, oh man, I remember that video.
These occasionally wash out, but it's just you've seen my TV, so.
Well, and I got to thank guest Mack Lambert returning. We had been back and forth organizing stuff, and it's so funny. He's like, you got to do an MTV chat. That was on the docket, but to his credit, he was just so adamant. He's like, we got to do it. We got to do this soon. I'm like, all right, let's move it up. Retro MTV chat it is. I didn't know we were going to do anything at this time of the year, but fuck it, let's do it.
my MTV. All right.
I want my MTV.
I want my MTV.
24 hours a day on cable TV.
I want my MTV. Yeah, too much is never enough.
But no, this is a delight, guys. It was really long time coming prepping this episode, and so we decided let's kind of a small, just kind of overview of just where MTV began, where it is now, and just memorable kind of highlights, what we take from it. My prep for this was watching a show that many had talked about and being blown away at how good it was. And I'll get to it when I'm called upon, but we'll just circle around just casually and thank you once again, Mac, for just reminding us, like, we got to do this. We got to do this. I'm like, yes, we do. It was on the docket somewhere, somehow, and James and Oreo teased it, and I was like, we'll get there, but let's get there a little sooner. And MTV, music.
I want my MTV.
It made me want.
Wow.
It made me want my money for nothing and the chicks for free.
Great scene.
I agree with you, Gil. I think it is the best idea of them all.
Bill Clinton is in agreement.
This video right now, I met him, Graham Parker. Small club in Grand Rapids. He signed the ticket at the end of the show and talked to him a little bit. So,
for those who don't know,
Graham Parker and the Rumor.
Yeah, great. They're a great band.
I had a rumor. Sorry, wrong song.
I don't think that's one of their songs, but yeah,
yeah, different song.
This is Local Girls from his best album. So,
Rumor had it.
Anyway, sorry.
Who can? I'd like to even just do a random survey just to today's audience and be like, can you remember when MTV actually played music?
Yep.
It'd be just like now that the internet's taken over, who actually puts a new video on cable TV now? It's like,
well, it's all YouTube now. That's where
right. It's like Palladia station would play some new stuff, then they got bought and merged with MTV Classic, like post 2013, 14. I was dismayed. I'm like, I preferred when they were just their own thing.
I'm baffled how they have the MTV Music Awards and they never play a video.
Yeah.
Right? It's just crazy.
You'll see more music at bed and even the Grammys, which I can't stand. And I'm like, what the hell?
Or do they play it at like 2 a.m. or something? They play bids. I possibly.
I guess.
I'm baffled at half the musicians because I don't know who the frig they are.
Exactly.
And you can't even hear what they're saying.
Most of them sound the same anyway.
You sound like your parents growing up with your music.
Oh, no, I remember.
Oh, turn that shit off now.
I remember the music videos. When MTV was on, I can remember getting in an argument with my stepsister because she was watching MTV and I wanted watch a show on a different channel. And she goes, "Not until the show's over." I said, "They play music videos. They don't play shows. It goes 24/7." And she goes, "Exactly.
It'll be on in 40 minutes again."
So we got in a fight over that.
Or if you're a true MTV fan, 120 minutes.
Great show.
Yeah,
great show.
Was that one of the first ones you guys watched?
No. I got to see. I got to see the videos, but I got to see like the young ones when they were first on because they brought them over to MTV. And then I got to see Monty Python again because they played them for a while.
And the Monkees.
People do forget, much like Comedy Central, the other Viacom channel, is like a lot of those stations would replay just kind of all kinds of cult comedy. Go ahead. Sorry.
You can say that MTV kind of brought the Monkees, did bring the Monkees back into popular favor again because they ran in 1986. I remember being in 5th grade. They ran the entire Monkees episodes for 2 days.
Mm-hmm.
And that kind of brought the Monkees back into popularity again.
And they wound up touring.
Yeah,
and they did.
Yeah.
86, wasn't that around the time they were trying to change the format a little?
Yeah,
a little bit. They were trying to bring in like TV shows and stuff. I kind of remember like when it first came on, I was 6 years old.
Oh shit! Hey.
So it's 1981. They had the space shuttle going off. the moon, the guy on the moon, and then I remember watching the Video Music Awards. I remember the first guy who got the Video Vanguard Award was David Bowie.
That's awesome. Man.
Was it David Bowie or was it the Sovereign? Venture Brothers reference.
I see what you did there. There was a great interview on Basic when cable was cool podcast, and they talked about the various programming executives at the Viacom family, and it was interesting hearing them, all the different comedians who were on doing the video blocks. Is like people like Dennis Leary and Jon Stewart said, like that's how they got their next dozen gigs, was because even though they basically did it for free, is like they would go to the nightclubs and the comedy tropes, and like everyone's like, "You're the dude from MTV." So it is funny how that was free advertisement for everybody. It's come a long way in being less segregated and actually diverse, and you can thank Bowie also for that by saying you're going to play Michael Jackson or I'm going to kill my contract with you.
Well, the thing is too is that when you're talking about Dennis Leary, if anybody remembers Remote Control.
Yeah,
I remember it.
Yeah, I love Remote Control.
Favorite shows.
Didn't Adam
Sandler,
Colin
David,
Quinn,
and
Adam Sandler, Kerry Ward.
How long did that go on for? I could have sworn they were still doing it in the 90s.
Didn't a Coppola also appear on Remote Control?
Yeah, I think so. Was it Sophia?
I want to say it was Sophia.
It was their first non-music program, first game show, but ran until 1990. I could have sworn they reboot it somewhere along the way, like in the 2000s. Like
I think they did. Like they did a one-off for it.
That might have been it. I might have seen something like that in 03 or 07.
And it wasn't like the other kids. Yeah.
You mentioned the Monkees. Do you know who helped launch MTV?
Oh, that's very simple. Mike Nesmith had a show called Pop Clips, and what happened was that he shopped it around for a while, and they said, "Well, we'll take a look at it." But then what happened was that there were a bunch of guys who looked at Pop Clips and said, we could make this a 24-hour thing, and we could get VJs instead of DJs. And Mike Nesmith was like, "Oh, okay, that sounds like a good idea." So Mike Nesmith is basically not only the father of some of the greatest country music of all time, but also the guy who gave the idea of MTV away.
What was this show Elephant Parts about? What was that?
That was a show on NBC that came on in 85. It was basically a comedy sketch show with songs in between it that he did, and
that's lovely. Hey,
it came out after he'd done Elephant Parts. It was called Television Parts.
Okay.
And it was broadcasted during the summer. What happened was that Elephant Parts, one of the best things he did was he says, I want to say goodnight to everybody, good night, Davey, good night, Peter, good night, Mickey, kind of his way of saying, don't worry, I'm still in touch with him. But he had like guys like Martin Mullen, Whoopi Goldberg.
Nice.
Who's the comic? She was a comic.
Mac and Eric, do you remember any of this?
I vaguely remember Rosie O'Donnell.
Yeah. And then he was the first guy to have Jack Handy, Deep Thoughts by Jack Handy.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
He had that on there. Jack Handy was a writer on the show, and then he went to Saturday Night Live.
Sweet.
So, yeah, if you watch it, it's Nesmith walking along the beach, and there's one Jack Handy spot, and I busted out laughing one time. But he does one where he's playing with a Mexican mariachi band and says, "We need a Guantanamera." It says, "We need a 1-ton tomato." He keeps saying 1-ton tomato. He just looks like him. 1-ton tomato? Like, but yeah, that was
so wild how the comedies is slowly kind of coming in, and basically history repeats itself. If you're seen on MTV, if you're cool for them, then you're going to get a gig on another sketch show or comedy show or music hosting show. It's just...
Another possibility is, I remember the Beatles anthology. George Harrison points out that they would do music videos, the Beatles, like they said about Ed Sullivan, instead of appearing later in the career. And George Harrison says, we basically invented MTV. So,
No, that's a good point, too.
There's actually old jazz music videos in the 40s, maybe not the 40s, but the 50s at least.
Yeah, those were
awesome.
around too.
Yeah.
But you got to think too, MTV did something that they did. They did this thing called Classic Classics, which was basically taking old videos from the '60s show from Germany called Beat Club. If anybody's ever knows about that show, it was a show made in West Germany, and all these bands would show up, like the Animals, the Who, Cream, and
Hendrix.
Hendrix would show up, and they did that. They'd have a show called Closet Classics. They had a show called Up from the Basement, which was new bands coming, new bands that were going to be voted on. The basement tapes. Yeah, the basement tapes. I'm sorry, the basement tapes. Yeah. I do remember their alternative show was Alternative Nation.
Yes,
and
Alt
that
Nation,
was with Dave Kendall. Yeah, Dave Kendall and Kevin Seal took over. Hi, I'm Kevin Seal. How are you? And then Kennedy took it over, and we all know what happened with Kennedy.
Actually, I don't know anything.
Actually, I don't know what happened with Kennedy.
I can make a JFK reference, but I think it'd be a bad.
Yeah. We all which Kenny are you talking about? I just rented a book from the library about Kennedys too. That's funny. Anyway, go ahead.
Kennedy was like this scattered brain DJ. She was like really cute and stuff. And then later one night, one night, scatterbrain Kennedy, elbow and ribs. So then one night I'm like flipping through the channels, and I see this woman on Fox News, and I'm like, oh, she's going off about Obama. I'm like, holy fuck, that's Kennedy. Yeah, she became a Fox News anchor, and
someone had to do it.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And for Greg Gutfeld of all people.
Right? The biggest sexist dude on the planet. Oh my God.
Now, I would disagree with that.
Can anybody name the first video they played on MTV?
Video killed
the radio star.
Yeah. Okay, can you remember the VJs, the original 5 VJs?
Oh,
J.J. Jackson, Alan Hunter, Mark Goodman, Martha Quinn, and what is her name?
Was there 5?
There were 5. Nia Blackwood.
Yeah, she's still
Nia
on.
Blackwood. Yeah.
So
Some
my
of
first,
XM Radio. I talked to Mark Goodman on XM Radio. They were calling about songs about the end of time, and I mentioned "If" by Brett, and he just gave me a hard time for that. I thought it was funny. So that's cool.
Yeah, Alan Hunter. Alan Hunter. I remember being in the fashion video with David Bowie. Yeah, Martha Quinn. I remember from being in the Brady Bunch show because she played
my first concert back in 2006, so it was cool seeing them play the Asia Video Kill the Radio Star video on a big screen in the background while they performed.
Yeah, and then Martha Quinn also had a role in a Full Moon Pictures low budget flick called Bad Channels.
Yeah.
She became part
Jackson,
of that.
I remember being a radio DJ in Los Angeles, and then I think he was here in New York for a while.
Yeah.
And then unfortunately he passed away.
So she was on MTV for a while.
Too. I think he was a performer. I think he had 1 or 2 hit songs way back.
He was the one that got out. He was the one who got away from Joe a lot faster than the others.
Yeah.
But either way,
a Jackson family reference.
Oh my God. We'll get there. But so basically, oh my God.
Come here, JJ.
God, different JJ.
So we'll slap you upside the head.
That sounds more like James Brown, but that's all good. No, whip you.
Dad, why do you look like Hightower or Freddie Boo Boom Washington from Welcome Back, Cotter?
Shut up.
Wow.
I'll do this for you. Hi there. Yeah, you happy?
This point, the deep cuts just kept coming.
But either way, like, you guys could recognize these guys like on cue, like anywhere they are, like being interviewed on a late night show or whatever. You're just like, that's the MTV, VJ. Is that how you kind of were with all of them, or?
Well, I knew some. Like, I knew Adam Curry because he always had the poofy blonde hair, because that's when they started to shift more into hair metal. Like, it was when it first started out, it was all these bands. Like, there were some bands that were established. Like you had the Who, the Stones were doing videos. 80s, all these bands were coming. And then like around 86, 87, there's this movement of what I like to call the hair metal wave.
Yep.
Where bands that were
Jovi, yeah.
The heavy metal.
You had bands like
the bands would basically co-host half the time. They're like, "You're watching our new video."
Well, it was like this. It was like you had bands like Def Leppard and
metal. Yeah.
No. I mean they were the first the first wave of metal bands, but then all of a sudden it got
just
to be like
in general, like just glam metal.
You saw bands like Warrant, Poison, Cinderella, Bon Jovi, who would change their image.
They discussed it a lot in the recent Hulu doc, and it was a lot of fun going for those. It's like, oh man, it's so dorky, and half the time they would just be cracking up. They're like, what are we gonna say again? Oh, it's gonna be so stupid. Let's do it.
Yeah. And I remember a lot of those bands, they would play like their songs and say like, hey, next up we got the new song from Warrant. And my friends would be like, "Yeah, we're gonna." And I'd be like, "Oh shit, gotta leave the room."
All right, it's like Case and Kasem, but now we, the audience, are subjected to it. We can't skip it. I mean, we could, but we're gonna have to flip back if we want to see a better video.
And now the request and dedication. We're gonna listen to Enya backwards for the next 45 years.
Enya backwards. Wow,
and the weird thing is, it'll sound exactly the same.
And it was the age of power ballads too.
Yeah, it was. And MTV also had a show called Headbangers Ball, which came out later, but it was still kind of in that cusp of the 86-ish or so.
7 seasons.
It was kind of like right towards the end of the 80s. And I remember it was it was Adam Curry. Adam Curry first hosted, and then Ricky Rackman hosted it later. I can remember Headbangers Ball would come on. And I knew it was time to go to bed when Headbangers Ball came on. And I remember seeing the Headless Cross by Black Sabbath, but it wasn't the Ozzy Black Sabbath. It was like they were like Tony Iommi and 3 other guys, but they were Black Sabbath, And I was just like, okay, I'm done.
It's too much. Late night. What did you think of this, Mac or Eric?
Yeah. So I was born in 1981, so I don't really have much experience with those early days of MTV at all.
No, it's fine.
Always
whatever.
Later in the decade is when it was become kind of the sneaky thing that my older brother and I would do to switch to MTV. And and if my parents caught us, it was we were just flipping the channels. We didn't actually see anything. And it was remote control that really caught my eye originally. But it's interesting about MTV is that just like a lot of the other early cable channels, it kind of reminds me of those original companies that were on the stock market, like AT&T was just the stock symbol is T for telephone. And there was
introducing that whole concept that now
General Electric was just and so CNN was cable news network. it's like they just had these very simple explanations. So MTV was just music television, and they always gave away this idea. It came across as like a renegade, and I guess they were, but they've always been owned by a huge corporation. That's like it just like really anything else. Television is not something that you can have like a mom and pop. Just get right into TV. Like you need to have a big production. In that time, you needed to have satellites. You needed to have, camera people and expensive equipment. So it wasn't something you couldn't DIY it. The videos you could. There was plenty of those early videos that was basically just
that's true.
Band.
It kind of like Fox was being the bad boy of network TV. They're having to do the whole we're the baddest cable network.
And the funny thing
keep
was,
that image up.
Yeah. And the funny thing was when you bring that up, Eric, is that bands now could sell 1 million copies of their record, not just by doing radio, but now they could do video.
Yep.
So,
yeah. I'll take it a step further. They were able to do videos to promote the upcoming album.
Yeah.
And they would get so much hype behind it that you could sell out, you get a platinum record just on the strength of one good video.
Well, I think
make it
MTV
like that.
had
Make it like that. Do it again.
I I think MTV had a lot to do with launching some careers, like Madonna, for example. I think she owes a lot to the videos she put on.
When they were
MTV.
banning
Michael
that
Jackson.
Michael Jackson too, yeah. Even though he had a career before, but when he started on his own, yeah.
It was always so funny though when they would cater to political pressure and be like, "We can't air this particular video." It's like, really, even by your standards.
there were videos that were banned. I remember. They banned
that's why I brought it up when
Queen's,
you mentioned Madonna.
They banned Queen's body language, and they banned "I Want to Break Free" because of the fact that they were in drag, which was bullshit.
That's covered in the movie.
The one thing I enjoyed about MTV was, watching the videos with scantily clad women.
Oh yeah.
In that order.
Who remembers that Whitesnake video with Tawny Katane on the car, huh?
Which one?
I don't know.
Every video she's in, yeah.
Wasn't she also when they brought back the new WKRP? Didn't she show up as a DJ on that?
Yep, she was on that.
And she's dead now.
Yeah.
Wait, Tawny?
Fell off the car.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's dead.
Yeah, she's dead. She
3
passed
years
away.
ago.
Oh.
Wow.
Oh, she's in Bachelor Party with Tom Hanks too.
Yep.
Yes.
Plays his fiance.
Cute chick.
And you could thank MTV for also bringing rap along, because rap came along, and that I can remember Run DMC, and Run DMC with Aerosmith. They brought those two back. They brought Aerosmith basically back from the dead.
Yeah, that one song,
Walk This Way.
Walk This Way. Yep.
So many actresses got their start basically playing a groupie or a love interest in a Aerosmith video. I mean, you got Alicia Silverstone, you got everybody. It's like, my God.
There's the Alicia Silverstone trilogy, or the Crazy
cinematic universe,
Crazy
and Amazing and Crying all have her in it, and those that Get a Grip, so that was the era that I really started watching MTV. Early 90s, mid 90s is when I was perfectly allowed to watch it, because I was 13, 14 years old, and I was watching MTV. That was my go-to.
My dad and uncle often had the TV on, and they were watching Beavis and Butthead make fun of music videos.
Oh God!
That was kind of the apex of MTV. Really, was that era, because they were the centerpiece of popular culture by that point.
And all throughout that until 2007, like endless watching, VH1 behind the music.
Deathmatch.
The Celebrity Deathmatch was there, but I mainly saw a lot of behind the music. That was always just a captivating show.
Well, I remember.
Right.
I remember.
And my mother really loved Owl TV, which was on both VH1 and MTV.
I remember
that. That's another person who got their start, who got big because of MTV.
He owes so much of it to him, but like that, I feel like that show definitely influenced a lot of early YouTube, where it's like, I'm going to make it look like I'm talking to someone, and we're going to match it up and make it look like it's the same, video feed setting, and just make it inconspicuous, like I'm actually asking them a stupid question and they're saying something even stupider, unintentionally funny.
He was kind of hinting at that with UHF when he made that.
It all comes around.
That kind of like renegade style television, and it was no mistake that the UHF symbol looked a lot like the MTV logo.
Oh my God.
It was taking that same mentality. You mentioned 2007. I think that was a major turning point for MTV's domination, because they had been the hub of everything. They were the ones that deemed things popular, and not just music, throughout the 90s, early 2000s.
This is before even other big wigs. Like, remember when HBO was like, we'll never sell our stuff to Netflix, and look what they're doing now. And then it was like
capitulated.
Play ball with the
it was what happened was it was I forget but MTV approached Mark Zuckerberg with a huge offer to buy Facebook, and he turned them down. And I mark that as the beginning of the end. That's when social media took over as the hub of pop culture, and MTV lost its position.
Well, basically,
to me, it was 97, 98 when the music scene started to change.
Yes.
And you got to think that year, when we were coming out of the 80s, and the 90s came along, and all of a sudden there was this movement of these bands that were, they didn't play. They were popular, but they were like in college, and
I was in college, man.
The alternative music scene came along.
Yeah.
So then all of a sudden that got popular, and then you had bands before that like REM, The Replacements, Husker Du, Black Flag.
Definitely a lot of those. Yeah.
A lot of those left of the dial bands that were really great. The Pretenders, Love and Rock. 'Cause I can go on and on and on. But then all of a sudden, 120 Minutes came along, and that kind of brought everybody, this new wave of bands that was coming out. And then in '97, all I remember is the music was getting darker, like Marilyn Manson, Coal Chamber, Mushroom. All these bands were coming. And I never heard of them. And then they started taking shows off, like Beavis and Butthead went away.
Aeon Flux.
Aeon Flux went away.
That was a great show.
Liquid Television.
Here's a deep,
Liquid Television.
So here's a total deep cut for you all. Do you remember one of their first scripted shows? That was Dead at 21.
Yes.
Yep.
No.
So I saw for the first time this year. Great show. But
the girl who was in Doogie Howser MD, the one who played his girlfriend, was in that show.
That's right. Yeah. And
yeah,
Lisa Dean Ryan. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, she was cool. Manny Koto, rest in peace, was even one of the supervising writers on it. He later worked on Outer Limits and Dexter in 24. But it seems so silly when I say to it now, but it was almost like Groundhog's Day, with some sci-fi stuff. And again, there's like now it's like secondary. Like every show has like a soundtrack playing in the background, making it look like a movie. But it's like, yeah, no, he's gonna find out how to prevent himself from dying on his 21st birthday, and he's gonna find out he's a science experiment. And every kind of music soundtrack from the 60s to today was playing on the show, and that's why it's never been released. There's just so much music. There's like
for the rights, yeah.
Yeah, there's like 12 songs that often get played per episode. It's like you can't take it away, you can't overdub it. It's the whole point of the show is to basically was an interactive kind of music video.
I'll go a little deeper. Does anybody remember a show called You Wrote It, You Watch It?
You Wrote It?
You Wrote It, You Watch It. Hosted by Jon Stewart.
Oh, okay.
Okay. And the group who was doing the sketches was The State. So Jon Stewart wound up getting the Jon Stewart show on MTV. That was his first show. The State wound up getting their show for 2 seasons. Okay.
Right.
So all that happened. Then what happened?
So that's where they were based off of. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then there was another show that was on. Remember, I used to watch. It's called House of Style.
Yes.
Style.
Yeah, I do remember that
House
one.
of Style.
Yep. Cindy Crawford.
MTV Sports with Dan Cortez. I remember
you had a thing with Cindy. Okay, cool.
I was trying to get hip because here I was in my little town, like going nowhere, and I was like,
"Who are these people?"
No. It was just like I wanted to see what was going on in the world.
I know. Hey, no, I'm not shaming here or anything. It's funny how it's like, in a way, like this
why am I in this town?
Why am I in this town? Okay, Phil.
Hey there, buddy. You know what else? You got the MTV thing. You did the comedians, like it had Norm Macdonald on there. Yeah, kind of good, yeah.
I'll come up to you.
The half-hour comedy hour.
Yep, that's right.
I'm going to tell you, your video sucks. Yeah.
Yep, and you got to see some up and comers right there. You had to see Colin Quinn outside the Remote Control. And Sandler was on there a few times. I know Norm Macdonald was, and just so many people.
Let's not forget the deep connection between all the Viacom companies. Eventually Viacom bought MTV, Comedy Central, Nickelodeon. They were all part of the same, and so they just kind of traded, moved things around. So a lot of those comedy components, like the State and the stand-ups and stuff, were just as part of the MTV scene as became the Comedy
No,
Central.
absolutely. That's why I was devastated by post 2004. Is like after that, it's like comedy's basically non-existent on MTV. You see more of it on VH1 because they do the I love this era and other funny talk shows, but it was all pretty much the comedy was all moved to Comedy Central, and what I just couldn't stand, and my cousins would love this and want to watch it, and I'd be like, can we watch something else? Can we watch like some edgy show or just something way funnier than this, like a rerun of Scrubs on Comedy Central or something? And they wanted to watch crap like Pimp My Ride with Exhibit, and I'm like, or what was the home remodeling house that was on for fucking ever?
MTV Cribs.
That's what it was. Cribs.
That was all fake.
So I know.
I couldn't do it, but they loved it, and I'm like, waiting 20 minutes to ask to borrow the remote so we can change the damn channel. Sorry, go ahead.
I know MTV started the reality thing with Real World, right? What year was that?
Yeah,
1992.
So that's about the time they started to shift more towards all that reality TV programming.
Yeah.
Probably because it caught on, big ratings, and this is where the money is.
Inexpensive to do.
Also, anybody remember the pitch for Miami Vice? The pitch?
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
MTV Cops. Yeah.
Yep.
The 2-word pitch, and they ran with it. And that was only 2 or 3 years after MTV started. So yeah.
Well,
they knew what they were doing. You were mentioning before about the changes that took place in the 90s, and I think it's represented best by the 2 Woodstocks in the 90s.
Yeah.
The 1994 one was very much the 120 minutes version of MTV on display. You had all those more, Green Day was there, Primus, all those groups that you wouldn't really get during the day most of the time.
Primus is a definitely good example. That was like
late at night. But then you go to
1999
1999 when you get the second Woodstock in the 90s, you have the worst possible combinations of groups and their fan bases. And it basically is just like MTV lineup just thrown onto a old Air Force base.
Yeah.
And terrible consequences.
It's like if you had a bunch of pop singers followed by a metal thing. It's like, no, you got to be more like natural with the very diverse.
Those groups don't go together.
Yeah.
Woodstock.
Here's the thing that happened was that
Woodstock, yes.
Woodstock 99. They had these candles out for Under the Bridge, and then Limp Bizkit comes out, and you got to realize the conditions.
And they broke stuff.
The conditions at Air Force Base were just horrible. So then what happened?
Everyone was literally sleeping in their own shit.
Yeah, and then they start doing that song, "I Just Want to Break Stuff." So everybody just started fucking saying, "Fuck it."
For those who want more on it, watch the Vice News HBO doc, Woodstock 99, and you will be horrified. And that's all I'm going to say. Sorry, go ahead.
Woodstock 99 is what happened if everybody actually did take the brown ass.
Well, greed. It was about greed. They charged an arm and a leg for a glass of water, and people were or a bottle of water. It was just getting ridiculous.
It was ridiculous, but it was
so supposed
funny.
to commemorate the 30th anniversary of the original. It was the photo negative of it.
It was like Altamont.
Yeah, it was very shocking.
It was Altamont 30 years later.
Altamont.
Exactly.
Wow. Okay. And it's just so funny seeing Moby in the documentary going, I don't know why I was there then. I still don't know why I was there today. It wasn't even a good mix. I don't know why they wanted me, a flamboyant, electronic music artist to go to a crowd that wants heavy hard rock,
Well, I think the thing that got me was the culture had changed too, to like, from
just wanted mindless as we can. It's lowbrow, even lowbrow.
It gone from kids that were, okay, we can appreciate what the 25th anniversary was, to these kids that were like, meathead dipshits,
absolutely.
And,
as and like it's even wilder how like the record execs were not only wanting to cater to the lowest common denominator, but like they would encourage it, like have there be a lame diss on a celebrity, have there be a homophobic remark. It's like, what? Why? It doesn't have anything to do. Like, just have the rock tune and it's fine, but you want to insert all this other toxic shit. It's like
it was a really poor exit for the 1990s,
Right?
Because the 90s started so promising.
That's why some people hate the 90s, because they only
And then
remember
it
that last 5 years, and you're like,
ended in such a nasty way. And I mean, I live pretty close to where they had Woodstock 99, and I had zero interest in going. I knew a few people that went, but I had zero interest because I'm like, I'm not going to see those bands. It seems like the worst thing ever.
Somebody I know went there, and they said that
music trends change faster than anything.
Yeah,
that's kind of what started
about the Beatles is they would change every year. They'd be a different band every year. Not just
instead of
they that kept the interest going with them. But music,
this is before
what's hot in music changes like monthly almost,
Oh, this is before we had bands doing carnivals, or charities. It's like, really? You come this far, you're an established band, and you really are that cheap? Like, Cheap Trick actually does stuff like that. I'm like, oh, you've just given your name a different meaning now.
But
music videos are part of the change, and that got to be old hat,
Yeah.
But that's what makes a movie like This Is Spinal Tap so funny, is because they are a aging rock band immersed in the MTV.
Yes.
And they don't know how to adjust to it. There's,
they're oblivious to how to adjust.
Yeah, because like they're watching, the music is evolving so fast, and it's in lightning fast pace because of MTV in that early 80s era, where what was fresh one month is completely gone, and they're still they can't adjust to it, and they also
can't turn it up
at
to
Air Force
11.
Base.
Not to mention the style is so much like Stop Making Sense or the Depeche Mode doc of the time, and because it's a mockumentary style, you're just like, oh, you had me fooled. I thought I was watching something legit.
What gets me is the kids that like me who liked alternative music that, all of a sudden like the two big bands were like Pearl Jam and Nirvana, and you had guys that were like on the football team saying, I love Pearl Jam, man. And I'm like, these were the guys that would push people like me into the lockers because we liked all these bands that.
That's a good point too. Alt's totally accepted now, but it was almost as taboo as being called a geek or nerd in the 70s and 80s, and now everyone's just oblivious to that. I'm like, at one point or another, something was mocked or hated or impossible to talk about, guys. So when you say you're under attack or you got a problem, is like it. Just look at earlier. What were the societal norms? And
prime example is today with Beyonce being named the country music artist.
Yeah.
Now there's a tie-in with this. Going back, I actually looked up who the first black country singer was, and it was Charlie Pride.
Charlie Pride.
Yeah.
I mean, you can throw in Darius Rucker from Hootie and the Blowfish.
Ray Charles.
Ray Charles. There you go.
Ray Charles, country and western. Was his album Country and Western Hits? Ray Charles. That was the one that he did.
Oh, I've got vinyl copies of it. Modern sounds and country and western.
Yes. Great record
sounds and country.
Let me go dig it out. Let me go.
But see,
there's two volumes.
That's
There's
what I
two
love.
volumes.
That's what I love too.
I Can't Stop Loving You is one of the best songs he ever did.
But that's what was
I'll
cool
put it
though,
this way.
is they gave him a chance, like all these different personas, to host a show. Sorry, go ahead, Tom.
Now I'll put it this way: Patsy Cline would kick Beyonce's ass.
Yeah. No, I'll go one further.
No, literally, she would kick her ass.
I'm not doubting it, but here's the other thing too. Like, even though some of the producers were stuck up in the 80s and everything, at least everybody was ultimately talking the same language. Like, Prince always got his way. Madonna definitely got her way. All these artists were able to ultimately know what formula was making them a success. I think the biggest debacle of this whole Beyonce thing is she claimed, I'm not making a country album, but her producers didn't get that memo and still applied it for CMT, which is known for being pretty racially deaf. And so it's just like, so you guys are not speaking the same language here. Like, is it country or not? Like, usually when, but going back to James's point, alternative music was just a little easier to market because it could kind of like new metal was thrown in some raps. Like, alternative could have all kinds of everything from classical piano to laid back pop rock. It was all, it was easier. It was harder to market, but it was easier to fit in a way at times too.
Here's what happened. There were two schools of alternative. There was the Seattle
yes, big
bands, and then you had the bands on the East Coast like the Lemonheads, Buffalo Tom, Dinosaur Jr., Matthew Sweet, who's in Georgia, REM, there were two.
REM was wonderful.
REM, you had the Mats and Husker Du, which
they got the singer
up
from B-52s in that one.
But I couldn't remember like it was like MTV was like this juggernaut till like I think 97, 98, and then to me it just kind of like faded. It became like less.
Yeah.
The move to Times Square was a pretty big part of that, I think.
Yeah.
I was just watching a video last night of from somewhere in the mid 90s, and it was people being interviewed, teenagers being interviewed as they're coming out of Virgin Record Store in Times Square about their purchases, and they're like, oh, this is Dave Matthews Band and Offspring, and I mean, pretty diverse group of CDs that they're buying. They kind of
coasted after a while. Like the only thing they had to worry about was, is this year's award show going to be awesome? We're going to give out the movie awards.
Right across the street from there is the reason why they had such diverse interests, is because MTV was playing Offspring videos right after Spice Girls videos, and everything was. So my uncle's cousin was some kind of producer at MTV in that era.
Some kind of producer. That's gotta be
I don't know exactly her job, but we were.
That's great on a resume.
We were visiting my relatives, and we got a tour of the MTV Times Square studios just before they opened.
Wow.
And it was like a behind the scenes thing. And I think that they thought that my family was some kind of big time deal, because
you're the shit, man.
Well, we met Matt Pinfield because he was the VJ at that time. I mean, he was I think he was genuinely a nice guy, but he got out of his chair. He was in makeup, and he came. Oh, hey, how you guys doing? He shook our hands, and oh yeah. You're gonna watch me record, the show later on. Oh, sure. And I guess like Chris Rock had just been there doing some kind of promo.
Chris Rock, let me tell you,
Fiona Apple had been there earlier the day, and it was great getting that kind of treatment and getting to see everything behind the scenes and see how it all worked. But
it works.
Even at that time, I recognized that this was the dawning of a new era for MTV, because instead of being sort of the bad boy of, they're right there in Times Square. You're overlooking, this is really the centerpiece of American pop culture media is Times Square, and MTV is right there with
Dick Clark,
the Virgin Megastore. And my young cousin was, while we were getting a tour of MTV, she was down the hall getting a tour of Nickelodeon. It was like, and Comedy Central was just down the, it was like the big corporate giant was flexing its muscles and be like, we're going to put MTV.
We're taking over cable, dude.
Here's what killed a lot of bands too, was the rise of the boy bands and the teeny bop singers. That's why remember 98 Degrees, Boys Band, was it Backstreet Boys,
had to bring them
NSYNC,
not me. Oh, NSYNC, okay.
No, they were out of sync with the times. But
and then Britney Spears and all those they came along, and like it was like, okay, all you guys who were popular from like this year to this year, go to the back. This is what's going to come in now. And I can remember just going.
Again, it's a changing. It's always something. What's hot now?
Every video had
TRL was responsible for most of that, and that was the ultimate in democratic.
TRL was the original Twitter, if you think about it.
It really was. Yeah, my mind was blown, because much like CNN, it's like there's news at the bottom of the screen, while comedians and
do you remember the original TRL? Because Carson Daly always hosted it, but the original TRL was in a quiet. It was just him with a computer in a dark room.
Yeah,
and he was getting requests through the computer, and he's like, "All
Is
right,"
not
and
very
it was very
visually
low
appealing,
key.
but yeah,
It wasn't
and
really as
Do it in a
obnoxious as it
sexy
became.
voice.
didn't they go to Orlando a few times a year? Because like I can remember just like it looked
Yeah,
like they
they
were
did.
like at
It was
MTV
SeaWorld,
Spring Break.
Spring
Yep.
Break.
Oh,
and so
that's right.
I would
I was like,
see,
yeah, Timmy's, woo!
yeah, I
There
would
was
see
also MTV Beach House with Tiki God. That was what I remember the most.
Oh,
Tiki
yes.
God. I don't know if Jack Black was on one, but I remember Anthony Anderson would be on a few, and he would be witty. He's like, oh, of course.
When Vincent Van Gogh cut off his ear and sent it to a girlfriend, people said he was nuts. But is it any more rational for you to listen to MTV on a cruddy little television speaker when you can get it in stereo? Science! MTV in stereo. An ear is a terrible thing to waste.
Well, remember they would do MTV Spring Break, and I remember the one time Gilbert Gottfried was on with Jenny McCarthy, and it was like I practically fell off my chair laughing because he kept, "Can I have a hug from you? Oh, good, I just had an orgasm." Like he just would say something so
wow.
It's you know, you watch this like almost like a car accident with those kinds of combinations. Like you see it coming a mile away and you can't get, and it's like because it was like the new MTV meeting the old MTV. Gilbert Gottfried would have been just perfect for late 80s MTV, you know, late at night. And Jenny McCarthy was the, you know, from the dating show on MTV, which was and just
singled
it's
out,
a bad, you know, bad combination.
Famous for
But
being famous.
if you really want a cringe MTV moment, take a look at.
I don't need to relive that.
go look up on YouTube MTV Scotter Day. It was when ska music was getting pretty popular, and they
Oh God.
Carson Daly's dressed up as a rude boy with his black suit and a hat on.
Yeah, I saw part of those.
They
It's
have
like,
all these people dancing around and skateboarding behind him, and
the Tony
like,
Hawk craze was out of control.
It was just, it's the most cringeworthy thing ever.
I lived it in 02, and I'm like, what the fuck is this shit?
There's also MTV's WCW contract too.
Oh God, I remember that.
Oh my God, we got to talk a bit about that. It can't be any worse than what else we talked about.
No, I'll go one better. MTV had a show.
Undressed.
No. It was a dance,
I remember that.
Oh, wait.
Yeah.
That was HBO.
It was a dance show. I forget. It was MTV with Downtown Julie Brown was the host.
Brown.
Well, there was the grind, but
no, not the. It wasn't. Was it the
It wasn't
grind?
the grind, but it was like a.
Oh my God!
I can see it in my head. That's how vivid it was.
Okay, so they did
always say wubba wubba wubba.
Yeah,
the grind was between 92 to 97. So,
all right, so they did one episode where it was all alternative music. So you see all these guys that are like, you know, muscle bound, and they're like headbanging. And I'm like, this is fucking weird. This is kind of hit, you know, the lowest of the low one. The grind, was it the grind or was it something?
Club MTV?
Club MTV, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But see, for those who don't know, they're like, "Oh, you idiot! What can you IMDb this?" Is like, here's the thing: they would transition somewhat seamlessly into other shows half the time and be like, "Wait a minute, now I'm not watching this. Now so and so's taking over for the next hourly block of the next kind of music." But yeah. Club MTV, yeah. So that was 87 to 92. You'll find this funny. MTV
for a long time it was a pretty low budget channel. Like they didn't spend a lot of money on sets, or they would recycle a lot of their stuff.
And
it wasn't really until the late 90s that they poured more money into things.
Yeah, and I think that kind of feeds into the idea that they were more like, it was almost like pirate radio almost.
It was kind of
that it had that kind of vibe to it, and that's something that I knew me growing up. That's like, hey, that's kind of cool, and so I got into it. And then Christian Slater, when you died, then
Christian Slater was on it.
Came up with a pump up the volume, and then I got on a pirate radio.
I was 14 when MTV started, so I felt like it. You know, it was growing up with me at the time, and I kind of, when I graduated in '86. That was around the time I felt like MTV was starting to slide away from what I was seeing in my youth.
Yeah.
Well, you were turning into adult too.
You'll find this funny. They apparently did release an album for MTV Grind. It was back in '97. It's basically just looking at the listing now. It's basically everything that's still on the electronic stations on XM Radio. You got Depeche Mode, Spice Girls, Alternate, and Funky Green Dogs. Amber and Garbage.
Well, you think about how much discretionary income teenagers had from the 80s to the 90s. They churned out a pretty reasonably priced CD.
An album from cheap.
They would just eat it right up.
That was the beauty of it, though. Like, it seemed like for a while, cable TV was a way of getting people interested in stuff that was currently, like, definitely back in 2002, I can tell you for a fact, like, people were swearing by various foul-mouthed comedians and nutty talk show hosts and rude puppet stuff, and it. I
kind of did what Mike did. I'd watch MTV and I'd be waiting for videos I really liked and record them on video.
You had to wait till the talking heads in the room before.
And it was just an extension of when I used to do that for the radio and listen for songs.
In
All these
schools,
I recorded in '99. It was the turn of the century, and they ran every video.
It's wild how you could tell if someone was a fan because like they would wear all kinds of T-shirts with band logos on it. That was kind of where it was becoming more popular. I got to bring Gil, you decided to watch a biography presents I Want My MTV 2019 music doc. What did you take away from that retrospect?
Oh, I just was in the most interesting thing for me was I didn't know about Mike Nesmith being involved with MTV until I watched that biography.
Oh, this is it. Like, it'd be funny to even talk to people who videotaped it back in the day. Like,
I can't remember. I'm sorry.
I was just going to say, and I didn't really give any thought until I saw the biography, about how much MTV helped launch careers like Michael Jackson and Madonna and some others I can't think of at the moment.
We kind of took it for granted, like a talk show host versus, no, this actually was a career boost. Like, without them, they wouldn't be where they are.
Yeah.
Well, Springsteen's biggest album selling wise, Born in the USA, had 7 videos.
Yeah. Dancing in the Dark was directed by Brian De Palma.
I gotta say that when I saw Dancing in the Dark, I'd seen him live 5 or 6 times by then. I said, "This looks really stilted and awkward." I said he doesn't move like that on stage. There was De Palma saying, "Okay,
right."
I find it amusing now.
It's funny how De Palma had a career filled with mixed reviews, and it's no exception. Like, everyone's like, "That's a cool video. I don't like how it's lit." It's often the critique I'll hear.
Now, the I'm on Fire video was interesting because it was a little mini movie. He's a garage mechanic, and
and
that also goes back to something that started out around the time that MTV really started getting popular. Yeah, bands like Duran Duran who were putting out every video was like a mini movie.
Yeah, that's true.
They had a video you could rent in video stores of compilation.
So what's videos that stand out for everyone? I mean, you got the Money for Nothing, Chicks for Free, whatever song that was.
Definitely China Girl by David Bowie.
I'm gonna say Ashes to well, there's a couple for me. Ashes to Ashes, but no. Let's Dance by David Bowie.
No, I was hey, nice.
I think probably Michael Jackson's Thriller.
Yeah, that's pretty important.
You kind of need it. Yeah.
Madonna's video for that was banned. What was it called?
Sacrifice My Love.
Justify My Love.
Yes.
Justify My Love. Yeah.
That's the
Didn't Michael Jackson's first video, wasn't that Billie Jean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he couldn't dance in it.
No, he couldn't dance. No,
it didn't stop him.
Seriously, he couldn't. He still.
Yeah, I know, but it didn't stop him. That's the funny thing.
Yeah.
But I mean,
like he wasn't allowed to.
Nope.
Wow.
Yeah, it was his. I think it was the director or the producer said no dancing whatsoever. And he's like, well, then I'll just do stop motion dancing now and then.
Did he know who Michael Jackson was?
Know who you're talking to? Yeah, that's like asking Busta Rhymes to not curse. That's just not going to happen.
What was
or not be in a Walmart commercial.
what was that video that had?
That's Ice-T. Leave him alone.
I can't think of the name of this video, but it had animation in it, like hand drawn animation.
Take on me.
Oh, take on me.
Take on me.
Take on me. Okay.
Yeah. There was some cool visuals though.
Yeah.
Sorry, but the Family Guy ruined that video for me.
Oh, come on.
Oh, come on. It's a homage.
There was
Sabotage by the Beastie Boys.
The thing I love is
Sabotage.
Yeah, Sabotage.
Yeah. Sabotage was a good one.
I'm going to go.
There's so many, but one that sticks out to me, I keep thinking, is A Matter of Trust, Billy Joel.
Yes.
It's shot on the street, and it just got this heavy sound. It's just a good song, a great song. And then I got to say though, Miami Vice, the first episode with Phil Collins,
in the air tonight
with the shot of the car at street level.
That was good.
It's not. I don't know if it was on every MTV video, but it was
probably
was.
Right
well,
if it wasn't on
Miami
that,
Vice
it was on VH1.
like just little MTV moments.
Right.
Yeah.
If it wasn't on there, it was probably on VH1. But yeah, in all fairness,
Dwight Yoakam and whatever song's on right now. That's pretty groundbreaking video behind you, Mike.
There was that. There was. I take it you guys. Do you remember Land of Confusion where he's like marching in the rain?
That's one of the greatest videos ever made.
Land of Confusion was the puppets. Was the
Spite Your Face.
That was the Genesis song. So
right.
So,
that was Genesis.
There's the puppets.
Okay, then I'm probably okay. So there was puppet, but there was some other kind of very atmospheric. Maybe it was Red Rain by Peter Gabriel. There was some kind of
Red Rain's the one who was in the rain.
Okay, yes.
Well, in the 80s, In the Air Tonight was my favorite song.
How long did it take them to come up with that concept of Red Rain?
Right.
Let's film them in the rain.
No, but no, that's true.
Let's make it red.
Like the video was kind of an excuse to listen to the song half the time. It's just like you get it on tape, you get the making of, and then
I don't know, for me,
people like that is makes it work too. Yeah.
For me, the end all be all has got to be Sledgehammer.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah.
How he's drawing on the board and everything and making all these.
Do you remember?
I remember watching Sledgehammer with my mom in the room. She goes, "I think these people are on drugs."
Oh, they probably were.
I remember the little the humorous things that you said, like Santa Claus, the man, the myth, the slam dancer, and it was like these kids slam dancing, and somebody put an animated Santa Claus like slam dancing with the kids. And I remember Stevie Washington, The Angry Youth, Born to Die, New York's New York, and it was like it was like this cartoon that they did was which we were following at weekly, and then they had what was the one?
Okay. So it was a serial kind of.
Yeah, and then they had Toby Hughes, who's played Artie, the World's Strongest Man on Pete and Pete, where he was doing like a Sinatra-like character.
Yeah, that was his shtick. Yep.
Yeah, damn you, booze, damn you to hell. Oh, maybe just one more glass,
Yeah, that got him singing the theme song for the Brothers Grunt, if anybody can remember that show.
Oh, God, I remember that show.
I wish that MTV would have shown more live concerts. That was rare.
That would have been cool. That would have been a good
But the thing was, they actually did show live concerts, and at least they did some concert videos, usually on Saturday night around 10 o'clock, where I'm at.
Okay.
And they did
I was probably out on Friday night.
I remember watching like Mr. Roboto by Styx and Duran
Duran, especially the girls on film one where they're in the islands and everything.
Well, then they'd hosted Live Aid, the U.S. part.
Yeah.
Remember the big finale. I was watching with a bunch of people in Holland, Michigan, and we were all bitching because they kept coming to the BJs instead of the stage.
Oh yeah,
they used a lot of footage from
that last number.
Cyndi Lauper's "Girls Just Want to Have Fun." Especially when her father is very badly lip singing her words.
That's Captain Lou Albano. I'll have you know.
When it came to live performances, I was thinking Austin City Limits, but I forgot that was Iowa Public Television. I was watching that on.
Yep. PBS will still re-show.
They used a lot of footage from Woodstock '94.
The Midnight Special in the '70s on NBC.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Midnight Special, Don Kirshner's. Hello, welcome to Don Kirshner's rock concert. Today, one of the most powerful guitar players on the scene tonight will be on our show, Mr. Peter Frampton. Let's watch him. If anybody remembers, they would show movies on MTV sometimes.
Yeah, they would.
So
they made movies as well.
Well, what I dug was when
Joe's
VH1.
Apartment.
Yeah, there was those specials, but that's kind of why I thought VH1 had it better down, is they would do music biopics with various actors playing famous singers.
There was a show they did. There was a movie they showed called Eat the Rich, which I don't think anybody has. I think I'm the only person who saw it. It was about
dark comedy, right?
It was a dark comedy about these people that open up a restaurant, and what they do is they serve food, but what they do is they find rich people, kill them, and then serve them for people to eat, and the restaurant becomes a smashing success. And I remember the only people I remember in that movie are Lemmy Kilmister, Nasher Powell, and Fiona Lewis, who was she was like big in like softcore porn. And all I remember is like just watching that movie, just laughing my ass, because there's one scene like we ran out of the main meal. And also you see Bill Wyman get up and he goes to the bathroom like you just said, "Oh, we just got our main course back. Don't worry." You know, it was just so thick. It was so thick to watch, but I was laughing my ass off.
And for a lot of people, it was MTV where they first saw George Romero's Night of the Living Dead, because they were
right.
Yeah,
they'd run that on Halloween. That's right. I forgot about that.
That was the right.
Guys, I gotta get going.
In the background, we got.
It's been great having on, though.
I just wanted one last thing about this whole thing is I credit MTV for getting me into my all-time favorite band, the Ramones, because it was a 1-2 punch.
Shoot them in the back now.
They appeared on the MTV Movie Awards that John Lovitz was hosting one year, and they did in 2 minutes all of the songs that were up for best song from
that was
movie.
95 apparently. Wow.
Yeah, and it was
hosting. Jeez.
The year before they broke up. But I was watching, I'm like, who are these guys? This is amazing. This is perfect.
Ask your parents.
They play so fast. And then the next day they played I saw the I Want to Be Sedated video, which they actually, because that came out in the 70s, the song did, but they re-recorded a video for it later on. And it was a 1-2 punch for me. I was like, that is like, where have these guys been? I was just, I was about 15. I was really getting into rock and roll and loving it and everything. And I'm like, this is everything to me. And it was, MTV, they did all they could. I mean, Joey Ramone was a regular fixture on 120 Minutes.
Yes.
He was at MTV Video Music Awards a few times in the 80s. They did all they could to get that band the credibility and the respect that they were owed, but they never really got it because their videos were all the same. They had no money for videos, so it was always just them playing, to the camera as if they were, they didn't really have the ability to do narrative films.
Eric, before you go, they did do a video for Rock and Roll High School in '79.
That's what I was trying to think of.
Yeah, and it's pretty bad.
They did play the movie.
They were actually sedated.
That was my introduction to the Ramones. Was that movie? Yeah.
Okay, I got a true story here about the Ramones. I DJ'd in Grand Rapids for about 10 years. Friday night, music and comedy, 2120. I probably got there for 120 minutes. One night I get a call, and it was the road manager of the Ramones.
Monty Melnick.
He just got off the airport and was dialing around. He picked me up. He says, "I like what you're playing." So that made my night. And I read later, we're in town. It was legit. It was actually him.
This is a perfect way to segue myself out of here because I never got to see that band live because, like I said, they broke up within a few months of me getting into them. But on my podcast, in the first episode of my second season of Everything's a Primary Source, I was delighted to invite Monty C. Melnick, their road manager, as a guest on the show. And
sounds like a great guy. Yeah. Obviously.
He was a really friendly guy, and it was, for me, it was the perfect way to satisfy that fact that I got to talk to the guy for 2 hours, and it was incredible. So if you want to listen to that, just check out my podcast, go back to season 2, and
everybody please check out.
So thank you guys. I hope you have a good rest of your conversation about MTV, and thanks for having me on.
Please check out Everything is a Primary Source.
And go to everything-history.com.
Yes, for the website. Yep.
Okay.
Cool.
Thank you.
Thank you for being on here.
Man.
Long time
Thank
coming.
you.
All right. And how about thank you also though, Mac, for wanting to bring this up because like this, I think so many visual effects companies definitely got almost all of them have a music video credit at one point or another. You know.
Oh yeah,
and there's a director that when the 90s came around. I mean, everybody directed videos, but there was one guy in the 90s. Russell Mulcahy did it. John Landis did it. But there's a guy, Spike Jones.
Yes.
That everybody like. I remember
all
him.
The Daft Punk videos, or that's
no, not even. He did Weezer. He did.
Yeah, he did Daft Punk though.
He did Daft Punk, and then there was another. There was another guy. He was the bass player in the Lemonheads.
He just did a recent one, I think.
Cortez, yeah. He became a director.
He just helmed the recent Dick Van Dyke and Coldplay video.
Yeah, and I think the thing is that directors became the big thing after the 90s because a lot of these bands like Anton Corbijn from did that Nirvana video.
Yeah, there's the American Box with George Clooney and Control and even a bunch of other music biopics. And Antoine Fuqua does Coolio's Paradise, and now he's a go-to action.
Yeah, Mark Romanek, who did a few music videos, and then he would go on to make 1 Hour Photo with Robin Williams.
Just basically was like, but then yes, sometimes like you're saying with like the Landis and some of the other guys, it's interesting how much like Brian De Palma, some of the guys who are known for even thrillers will still come back into the well once in a while. Joe Schumacher does I think one for like U2 in the 2000s. Who
directed Michael Jackson's Ghosts? I forget. Because that keeps aging so fucking well. I watched it the other day.
Thriller was John Landis. I know that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I watched Ghosts and I was like, damn, this is better than Thriller.
It should say on IMDb. In 97, that was by Stan Winston.
Yeah, that's it.
Yep.
Whoa.
That was cool as shit. I love that video.
Oh, yeah.
Vex artist.
It's so good. Like,
I don't know how I didn't know.
We'll return after these messages.
If you like small town mystery, crazy news, and wild history, then the Florida Men on Florida Man podcast is for you. Each week, Josh Mills and Wayne McCarty bring you the absolute best Florida has to offer. So if you're looking for a show that's safe for the family, but funny enough to help you escape everyday life, then listen to the Florida Men on Florida Man podcast. That's Florida Men, plural, on Florida Man podcast.
Hey, it's Brent Pope, the host of Breakfast with Brent Pope. You've seen me on some of your favorite TV shows saying things like, "Give it up, Jimmy. You got to sink this putt to win." On Breakfast with Brent Pope, I sit down with guests from the entertainment world, and we do it all over breakfast. Or should I say Brentfast? Every week on Brentfast, you get inside Hollywood info and tips, great breakfast recs and booty debates. Most of all, you get the most delightful 30 minutes of your week. So dig in. It's Brentfast time. Listen at Brentfast.com, Apple Podcasts, or wherever fine podcasts are found.
Here's the one thing that gets me when we all watched MTV. Does anybody remember other stations starting to do like a whole they would have their own little thing? Like I remember MTV having video jukebox when I was a kid.
I remember that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I know. But Canada was also big into video jukebox too because I remember seeing a segment where they were showing a video for Rush's Red Barchetta.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Rush had some crazy videos. That is for sure.
Well, what was everybody's opinion of the take of the the VH1?
Yeah, they had to have an answer to it. Basically, I mean, so then when weather channels start changing and everything, like now the whole scrolling text at the bottom of the screen is like so secondary now.
Yeah, when it came out, I saw VH1 as the adult contemporary version of MTV.
Yeah,
it was a little more watered down, I thought.
Yeah, well, I should say something because my brother-in-law was on that channel.
Yeah, it's a bit,
my brother-in-law had a video on that channel.
Oh?
Yeah, Island Life by Michael Franks. I remember it being on. I remember my father going, "Oh yeah, it's on VH1." I'm like, "We don't get VH1." I just got thought, and I just we don't get VH1. I just said, "Thank God."
What? Where? I could be wrong because I'm thinking it's MTV, but it could have been VH1. Do you remember where pop-up video got started?
That was
VH1.
VH1. Okay, so never mind.
They still seem to do it on MTV Classic, where they'll have AMC would do that for a while. Story notes.
Yeah.
It's like, stop popping up during the middle of the movie, dude. Come on.
Oh wait, I'll go one better. Does anybody remember when Amadeus came out? That somebody put together a video showing that Mozart was like a rock and roll star in his time. So they had stuff by, Alice Cooper and the Beatles and the Who and the Stones and Bowie and all that shit. And I mean, I was like, it was amazing because it introduced Mozart's music to a whole new generation with that movie. And I can remember watching it going like, oh, okay, no, because the beginning is David Lee Roth coming and says, like, okay, folks, let's make this fast. I gotta have this suit back by 6. And it just starts off, and it's this wonderful video. It had like Van Halen and like
There's actual dialogue beginning everything. Yeah.
Was that Rock Me Amadeus?
No, that was the video.
Oh, that's a different song. You're right. I'm sorry.
The video for the Amadeus movie is Symphony Number 25 in G major.
Okay.
But they said, from the movie Amadeus. And it's like
extra market it. Yeah.
They marketed it, and I thought it was really well done. I liked it,
Isn't he played by Otter from Animal House?
Yep.
Not Otter. Tom Hulse, yeah.
Pinto.
Yeah. Tom Hulse. Yeah.
Otter was the one that got the dean's wife, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if that movie would play today. Who knows?
It's college movies, so probably not.
I think the thing that always gets me the most about MTV when we were all growing up was you could be anybody and make a music video.
Yes.
I remember
they never asked what was the budget. They asked, is it safe to air? Okay, cool.
Yeah. Well, I can remember they wouldn't show certain videos. Like I remember they wouldn't show certain videos after like 10 o'clock or something like that. I was like, you watch them now, they're so tame,
Many of them are, even the ones that are risque or have people dancing, like they're a long ways away from before we had shit like, half the metal bands are having what looks like someone about to commit suicide and don't get me started on R. Kelly. I thought it was bad then. It's still bad now.
Frankie Goes to Hollywood had that one song, Relax.
Relax.
Oh, yeah. And they had to do 2 versions of it. They did one where it was the actual, like, they're like in this like club with, that does very strange things. And then they did one where they were on stage doing the song and everybody gets into it with them, like the crowd's going like this fever pitch with the crowd. I like the live cut better than the
safe
the
to
one
air
with
edit. Yeah.
Does anybody remember?
Duran had the same thing. Duran had the same thing happen with their video for Girls on Film.
Yeah.
Oh, I remember being in a video store.
So what was
this guy comes in and said his daughter's rented that video, the compilation. He said it's porno. I mean, the whole video version was even more. Yeah, it was worse. Yeah.
So Girls on Film, I don't recall much. Just people on a boat and then on an island and then.
No, they were like doing it was like they were like a Japanese house or something, like some geisha house or something like that.
It was more like I saw it more like a boxing ring almost.
Okay, so
they had someone mud wrestling. They had a nurse giving a massage. They had somebody riding a man dressed up like a horse.
Okay, so maybe Rio's the one.
Rio's the one you're thinking of.
Rio's boat.
Okay.
But
who knows? They might have had a cut where girls are topless. I don't know.
Yeah, it was. It was on the home video version.
I'm trying to remember. There was some. Does anybody remember? Is it Chris Isaac? I think the song was.
Oh my God!
Wicked Game.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I looked at that, and it's like they thought that was the most over the top. I mean, you don't see anything, but again, you have to look at it just from the more conservative 80s where they're looking at just the notion alone. Oh, you can't do that. It's like, even though it's kind of present in the song's narrative, like I can sing about it, but I can't show
Reagan, Coke, and spandex. Remember that, folks.
Early in the history of MTV, they did something that goes back to AM radio. I remember growing up in the early 70s, they had this thing on AM radio, Champ or Challenger, where they'd play us 2 songs and you'd call both.
Oh, yes.
It was MTV video fights. It was the same idea.
Video fights.
Yeah,
wow.
They play them back. Yeah, I think it ran all Friday night, and they just kept,
And then, this was back when people...
Would you call a 900 number for 50 cents to vote or something? Or
NBC did the same thing, Friday Night Fights. I remember
Friday
that.
Night Fights.
Okay.
But here's the other thing, too. Like,
maybe it was NBC that, not MTV. I thought
it was NBC.
Okay, I thought it was
MTV. But that's awesome though. Like everybody was taking advantage of the whole thing. But like, do you remember when everyone actually looked forward to Fridays? Like, that's when I'm clocking out. I'm going home. I'm gonna hang with friends and family and the wife.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm gonna watch something cool, whether it's something on pay-per-view or something I rented or whatever's on cable TV. And it's like, I don't really get that now. Everyone's kind of just...
It's Friday.
Yeah, they're just like, whatever.
Take a breath. It's take a breath day.
Well, take a breath. Yeah, I love it. Take a breath.
The thing I would say about Fridays was that we would watch something Friday. Then Saturday, I'd watch cartoons. And Saturday afternoon, like into the
That's why my family was into Pee-wee's Playhouse. Like that was their weekend morning.
Wait a minute, JJ. I got to argue with that. NBC had Friday night videos.
That's right.
Didn't they have Friday Night Fights?
But the video fights was MTV. I'm almost positive.
Are you sure?
Let's look it
I
up.
Google it. And are we having a fight about it? Yeah.
No. I kept thinking it was Friday night.
Friday night video.
Oh wait, no, you're right, Mike. You're right. Yeah.
You guys are never wrong.
I'm gonna look at. I'm gonna Google it.
Now you'll love this.
I'm gonna get on the Google.
So,
find out.
I don't mean to argue.
Riddle me this. Why did anyone give a shit about the real world?
Well, because it was a true story about 7 strangers picked to live in a house or a loft or an apartment.
Yeah, Pedro.
Yeah, that's the only one I can remember.
I love it. Going for it now on Amazon for $12.77 is The Real World Greatest Fights, and it has an X rating.
Yeah, they had some really weird characters on there, but one of them
people would talk about. I'm like, why do I?
Judd Winnick, I think he was one of the earlier seasons. Maybe he got into the comic book industry as an artist.
Oh my god!
Oh, I know him. Yeah,
Green Lantern.
I didn't know he was on The Real World.
Yeah.
He also wrote a book about his relationship with the
Pedro Zamora.
Yep, that's
yes.
it.
Called Pedro and Me, which is a really great book to read. But I can remember, like, the first season of that was New York. The second season was Los Angeles, and Los Angeles was like they had the country boy John, who was like, we wore a 10-gallon hat, and he was. I'm like thinking to myself, Jesus, God, this is whoa. And then they had
stuff used to be stupid, but it was kind of also funny. And it was like when they got to Jersey Shore, I was done. I'm like, please stop.
I mean, I tried Real World, and I didn't really get into it. Like, it was around the 2000s when they really went more edgy, and always had all the Protesbians on there and fake shit. Yeah, it's like, oh no, there's boobs and there's guys making out and girls making out. Big fucking deal. They're paid for it.
And now those shows
being exploited.
And now those shows are now have their own network. It's called Bravo.
Oh, Universal took a cue, yeah.
But I'm gonna tell you that second season of The Real World, you have to watch it because there was this guy David, he was a comedian, and he was joking around. He was joking around with this girl Tammy, and he dragged her out of bed, jokingly dragged her out of bed, like her covers were, and they all accused him of trying to rape her.
Oh my god!
And it was like they just sat there, and I'm like,
someone thought that was funny. Jesus.
No. No, and they were like, he's like, they had the 3 Beths on there. There were the 2 Beths, and then they kicked him out of the house. Then they brought in this other guy, and then the other girl left, and then they brought in another girl who was a lesbian. And it was like, okay. The third one, I just kind of went baked out, kind of went whoop, because they brought in like these people that I was like going, what? I don't identify with these people at all. Puck was supposed to be this like,
That's a great
bad
name.
boy. Puck Rainey.
Yeah.
I remember him.
What
He was
the
the
I'd be
bad
surprised if
boy.
all the people they
Now-
brought him were fucking cameramen.
Oh, he was a gross out artist, man. He was like, he'd pick his nose, dip peanut butter with it. He'd spit on the floor. He
Jesus.
never showered.
Oh
They
my
kicked him
God.
out because Pedro didn't like him. He
I
said something. Oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say I kind of lost interest with the Real World. I didn't watch more than an episode of it, and that was it. And then I kind of veered away
When-
from MTV for a while. But then I
found
started
it so. Don't you find it? Sorry.
I was gonna say, and I started to notice things in the '90s, like the Liquid Television, and like
Yeah,
and Beavis and Butthead. I got it. I like the humor for that, and but yeah, Liquid Television with which isn't Liquid Television the one that introduced Aeon Flux?
Yep, that's true. Yep.
Oh, Liquid Television. There's videos on YouTube of that.
And then and then they did like
what was a dumbed down Mystery Science Theater,
and then they did like the Max, which was a comic book
The
character.
Max was
Max,
amazing.
and they did the
Yeah.
head. Remember the head?
Yep.
I remember
The
the head.
head, yes.
Do you remember the stick figure theater they did where they
Oh
tried to do their
God,
own?
yeah.
That was
They
amazing.
did their own thing
Yeah.
for Night of the Living Dead.
They did Night of the Living Dead. They did Cyrano de Bergerac. They did the Hindenburg disaster.
I remember.
They did Henry V, Psycho. So I would watch those and be hysterical laughing because it was like, the guy they were playing like it was like supposed to be like Hitchcock. Hitchcock was this big round figure. So you won't believe what you saw. I mean, the blood was just everywhere, and I just they would take the audio and just draw around the audio. I remember there was a one they did called Beavis and Butthead were on Liquid Television. I remember that, but there was one they did called, what was it? Dog Boy. Dog Boy, Crazy Daisy Ed, right? What was the other one? There were a couple on there. I would like I would just be like, okay, I get the humor in this, but Beavis and Butthead came out of Liquid Television because it was Frog Baseball.
That's right. Yeah.
Did anyone go to the theater to see that movie when it came out?
Oh yeah,
Do America?
I was 25.
Yeah.
I think I got my wife had the CD.
I was 25 and I went into the theater and it was just full of teenagers. I think my wife and I were the only ones over 20 in that theater.
That soundtrack, I'm good to this day. Love Roller Coaster by the Red Hot Chili Peppers is easily one of like the top 3 greatest cover songs ever made.
Oh yeah. I think Lesbian Seagull was
Ohio
hilarious.
players, but who covered it again?
Red Hot Chili Peppers.
Red Hot Chili Peppers, yeah.
Oh, they're from they got roots where I live here. I think.
And I do want to give a shout out to MTV because they were the ones that introduced me to anime when they would rerun the classic Speed Racer anime.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Oh, that's right. So I sent a link about Friday night videos or video fights.
Yes.
It occurred to me, NBC, they did Saturday Night Live was originally Saturday night because they stole the title from Howard Cosell's Saturday Night Live. So then they did the same thing with MTV Friday Night Video Fights. They had NBC Friday Night Videos. That I was like,
what the hell? Yeah.
On your own,
And they had the Not Ready for Primetime Players. Remember, Saturday Night Live had the Not Ready for Primetime Players. And the thing that's funny is
primetime players on it and Cosell's, right?
On Cosell's, but the funny thing is, Bill Murray was on Cosell one. Yeah.
And I think Billy Crystal as well. Possibly.
Yeah. I think maybe
not. I think he was hanging around. He was trying to get on the original SNL. If you see the movie, he shows up in there, but he wasn't. He shows up, years later. But I think he was trying to get on the original SNL the first season.
Wow.
I remember MTV, like they were always going they would always push a movie on. So I think one time they showed A Hard Day's Night. I remember them showing that.
Okay.
And then they would do like Rock and Roll High School. They did Eat the Rich. I think they did. I remember showing a lot of stuff by Queen, but they would show the Queen. We Will Rock You. We Are the Champions from Queen live in Montreal. They would show that.
Nice.
Then they would show Bohemian Rhapsody. I think they showed Under Pressure a lot more than you expected because
I do love how they edited Under Pressure, though. That was some funny shit.
You know, when I said
I think this is live footage of Pink Floyd here.
You know, when I said I saw Beavis and Butthead when I was 25, I just looked at this, and I was 29 actually.
Okay.
Which is more depressing, but you know.
That's 29.
David. What did you see when you're 29?
We got our start somewhere.
Gil, what'd you see when you're 29?
I saw Beavis and Butthead do America when I was 29 in the theaters, and there was a bunch of teenagers in there, and it was just me and my wife for the over 20 crowd.
Okay.
Yeah, you're still in the bracket there.
Yeah. Someone had to do it.
But the thing about
nothing.
The thing about MTV is that they were able to do so much. And the artists who were putting out the videos, you had complex videos like the ones that were really complicated, like Sledgehammer, Aha, Take On Me,
Crossroads.
But you also had simple ones like with Peter Gabriel and Kate Bush, Don't Give Up. It's just two people in an embrace going around and around. And it's so powerful in its simplicity. Then you compare it to something that's a little bit more of a big budget production like Duran Duran's Wild Boys.
That was amazing.
Springsteen's Brilliant Disguise is just him sitting in the kitchen with a slow zoom. You know, doing the song. Yeah.
I mean, but it really did push the boundaries of. Wouldn't just say, it did push the boundaries of not just making music videos, but I think it had an impact on cinema in a much larger, and definitely TV, because
they wanted similar stuff. And
it was just a matter. It wasn't just the zeitgeist at the time. It was like to a movie going, or to the movie companies. They were like, this is revolutionary. We need to do something with it. And then that's where you get movies like Tron, and you get things that had that
the gotcha
push
moment.
The boundaries.
Yeah. Even if they didn't understand it, they wanted to replicate that success. You know.
If you ever see the movie video for Elvis Costello's Veronica from 1988, also when he did Spike, that was about his grandmother.
Oh,
he was going through dementia, and at the end of the video, he says something. I don't know what he says, but sometimes I come here and I see her. She knows who I am, and sometimes she doesn't. Sad, really, when you think about it. And he gets up and he walks off. And then there was one where Steve Perry had just done "Oh Sherry," and he was doing "Foolish Heart," right?
Oh, Sherry.
So he does "Foolish Heart." He stops. The video ends. He says, he walks around the corner. There's Journey. He says, all right, guys, let's go make a record. And they walk away. And that's the last time we saw Journey with Steve Perry.
Jeez. It really was meta. It was biographical.
I remember when Kiss showed up in Unmasked.
Oh, God.
You had to bring that up.
I realized they should have stayed that way.
I remember they did the interview that night. J.J. Jackson was interviewing him, and he says, now, ladies and gentlemen, the members of Kiss: Paul Stanley, Gene Simmons, Eric Carr, Vinnie Vincent, right? And look, they asked Gene Simmons. They go, how's it feel? And they go, oh, it feels good. He was going
God!
Nuts. I can remember Anthrax being on the house. And Anthrax was hilarious because they said Corey Glover this week, lead singer of Living Colour, is leaving the band and joining King Crimson. So now they'll be known as Crimson and Glover.
Wow,
that's pretty funny.
That brings us to something else.
Get a celebrity meltdown, or like Mariah Carey, I think, was on MTV one time.
Celebrity meltdown. Wow.
Yeah, she had like kind of a weird thing happen. I think it was during when she was making that movie Glitter.
Oh my God, you had to bring that up.
I remember.
I saw that when that premiered on VH1, and I was like,
Was it that Britney Spears?
No, that was Crossroads, but
okay,
that was
That's
MTV
good, too.
produced. But like, I'll remember when that premieres, and this is years before we had a riff tracks, like by 7 years, and I'm like, oh Lord, you don't ever call this a movie. You can call it whatever you want, but do not call it a movie.
I wonder if they've ever taken it on, the audio version.
Well, Drew Carey had the best thing. He said, Jesus, if they want to bomb Iraq, they should just fly a plane over with glitter coming out.
Now, going back to the...
I think I remember
MTV, MTV also had Unplugged, which was more in the 90s, but still, I consider that was an apex.
They would release VHS copies of it, and album copies.
Yeah, you had bands like Nirvana, Kiss, Duran Duran. They were showing that they actually had musical chops. It wasn't just overproduced. That they actually had, and I remember seeing Duran Duran doing an acoustic version of one of my favorite songs of theirs called "Serious," and you got to see Warren Cucurullo playing.
Were they more serious than Stevie Wonder? Let's get serious. Sorry,
I remember Tony Bennett being on that show. Here was a bunch of kids in their 20s listening to Tony Bennett. Jay Masix was on, and he was playing guitar for Tony Bennett. And then I remember he was playing acoustic guitar. They were doing St. James Infirmary, and then I remember Soul Asylum was on.
Oh my God!
And they brought out Lulu, and Dave Perner and Lulu did "To Sir with Love."
Man,
I can remember Neil Young being on that show. I can remember
Tom Petty, Ryan Adams
was on that show. Who else?
Kenny Wayne Shepherd.
Alice in Chains might be my personal favorite.
Alice in Chains. That's like what, and that made them even more popular. I recall reading how that appearance was really lucrative. It really helped make more people be aware of them.
Bob Dylan did the best. Bob Dylan kind of rebirthed his career on that show.
Oh, I got a story about Bob Dylan. Do you know who his kid is?
Jacob Dylan.
Yeah, lead singer of Wallflowers.
Yeah,
Wallflowers.
Wow.
Yeah. I was like,
I know my kid is Jacob, and he's in that band, and he's from my wife Sarah, and then after that I'm gonna go on tour, and
Susanna.
Don't you cry for me. I remember VH1 did something like that too, and they had Wilco come on. Remember the band Wilco
came on to play.
Wilco came on, and they brought Roger McGuinn from the Byrds on.
Oh my God!
And they did. So you want to be a rock and roll star, and
you want to be a rock and roll star.
So basically, it was Roger Wilco.
Wilco
has briefly tried to replicate that. I'll vaguely remember it was like 05, 06. They had a stupid reality show called "Who Will Be the Next INXS."
INXS,
INXS,
because it was after Michael Hutchins.
That's what it was. Yeah, I'm like, how do you replace someone like that?
I love the fact that the Beatles White Album box set that came out a few years ago, there's the Escher demos on there, which is basically the White Album unplugged. I think it was at George Harrison's house, and they were just doing acoustic versions of all the songs.
They were at the house.
I love that album anyway, but that's a great listen. Yeah.
They were at the house, and he had, I think, 2 tape recorders, because you could tell they were doing like bounce back and stuff like that.
Yeah, it got a weird sound. You're right. Yeah.
Yeah, and what happened was that Lennon did a song called "Child of Nature," which would become "Jealous Guy" off of Imagine, and then I know that Harrison does "Not Guilty" acoustically, "Sour Milk Sea," which he was going to do for Jackie Lomax.
But he is guilty as charged with being awesome.
McCartney is in there too. That one off the first album, Junk. So.
But it's amazing. That's an amazing listen,
Yeah.
You know what I find funny when you were talking about directors? Sam Peckinpah did a Julian Lennon video called "Much Too Late for Goodbyes."
Much Too Late for Goodbyes. Yeah, that's the one with the guy in the background who kind of dressed and kind of looked like John Lennon.
Yeah,
Wow.
I can remember
that would have been
84.
Jeez. Man.
I can remember them doing a video for Elvis's blue suede shoes. I think it was the 50th anniversary of Elvis being born.
That was the fun of it too. Like half the time the video would market, like I would see them even playing at Target still in the 2000s. It's like that was the way of marketing the new movie release or the new, like it would be the single that's promoting an album playing with other videos. Or I mean, half the time, like videos now when I see in the morning hours, they've done it for a while, but they still stick to it. Like whenever someone's in town, like the concert footage is all like archive live stuff as well as classic music videos. Is like now everybody just basically just goes back to the well. They're like, yeah, here's the popular video that they're best known for.
The one video that always stands out to me when I was watching 120 Minutes was the Pogues' Christmas Fairy Tale of New York.
What?
You guys ever hear that song? The Pogues did this beautiful song. It's one of the best Christmas songs I know. Fairy Tale of New York. And it was Shane McGowan and Christy McCall. And you have to watch it. It's like it's just a song about.
You gotta post it in the group when we're done.
Yeah, I'll get it for you when I get the chance.
I've been going through the rock song index book, 7,500 rock songs. I believe it's in there.
Yeah, and it's a good thing. Everybody remembers "Christmas in Hollis" by Run DMC.
Yeah,
that's a great one. It's
that's
Christmas
the only original
time.
song on that album. The other ones were all previously done songs.
Yeah.
I'll show you a previously done song.
I was also thinking that Purple Rain has a heavy. The movie has a heavy.
I love how when I was doing some just random research, it was totally unrelated to this, but this actually serves this. Was I would just look at what were the most controversial music videos, and When Doves Cry was deemed as too risque. I'm like, I mean, you see his chest, but and he's in a bathtub, but you don't. Come on, that but it's just amazing. People would freak out. Oh my God, so and so is going to sexualize my teenager, and they're going to have premarital sex. It's like
we can blame Tipper Gore for that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And it's just, but all it would take is, this people forget this is back then. Even if it was cable and they knew they could get more risque, that without Phil, someone would call into the headquarters.
Twisted Sister had two of the funniest videos ever. We're not going to take it, and I want to rock. And you know what it is?
I want to rock.
Okay. You know what it is with those two videos? And Mark Metcalf talked about it too. He said that they were doing Wile E. Coyote. They wanted to do Wile E. Coyote. They wanted to make the guy who's the the Douglas Niedermeyer guy, Wile E. Coyote. Everything he does, he screws up at. He tries to blow him up. He blows himself up. He does this. If you watch that video, you start laughing, even though the song it's a great song. We're not going to take it, and
we're not gonna take it anymore.
And then when they did Leader of the Pack, when they got rid of the makeup, they were doing like the Dee Snider was like, we wanted to do this song. We love the Shangri-La song, but it's the girl getting to all these tussles. She falls down the side of a cliff. She gets run over by a car. It's supposed to be funny. They loved Warner Brothers cartoons, and I remember parents going, "Oh, that's a terrible video." It tells the kids to watching Wile E. Coyote. It's the same thing as watching Wile E. Coyote. Dee Snider was saying, like, "It's watching. We're doing Wile E. Coyote. We're doing a live action cartoon."
This Jerry Cantrell video in the background is one of the strangest videos I've seen. Which one? I don't know if you've seen any of that stuff going on, but I can't remember the name of the video.
What is it?
It's a Jerry Cantrell video. He doesn't know which one.
I can back it up and get the title. You can probably YouTube it. It's a weird one.
I've got work in the morning, so before I cut out, I just wanted to bring up one person that I think doesn't get talked about enough for MTV, and it's Kurt Loder.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes, MTV News.
Yes.
Nice.
And I gotta say, one of the best MTV News things I've ever seen was when they had Crow T. Robot and Tom Servo on there with Kurt Loder for an MTV News.
Yes.
And they would actually have them riffing the MTV News segments, like they were doing one for Radiohead. And I believe it was Crow T. Robot who called Tom York Heroin Martin Short.
Wow.
Kurt Loder came along just around the time, like the last of the 5 original VJs left, wasn't it?
Yep.
He's in his 60s too.
No, he's almost 80 now.
Before you go,
Yeah,
did you guys ever see the one documentary, Quiet Riot? Well, now you're here. There's no way back.
No, I have not.
Yeah, it was in 2014. It's on Showtime quite a lot. It was directed by, what's his name? Frankie Banali's. Before his death, he had a B-movie actress who was directing the video, and it was a really fun video. But yeah, it got me in the mood just while I'm watching it. I'm like, I could sure go back for some Quiet Riot now, I guess.
Well, you know, it's funny when you talk about Quiet Riot. Quiet Riot, when they first started out, Randy Rhoads was on the guitar. He was the guitar, but it wasn't.
Great name.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
I know.
So what a lot of people don't realize is they were basically covering a lot of the Small Faces stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So one of their first songs they ever cover is on a Japanese EP called Ichiku Park, which is the big hit that the Small Faces had over here. And Kevin DeBro, and I think
what's up, bro?
Kevin DeBro was doing Steve Marriott a great service by doing that song. It's a great song to listen to. So you got to realize there's more than just Quiet Riot. Quiet Riot basically made Slade popular.
Yeah.
Because of Come On, Feel the Noise and Mama, We're All Crazy Now. Those are 2 Slade songs.
Is that Sinead O'Connor behind you, Mike?
Yeah. My name? She died this year, did she?
Yep.
No, it was a few years ago.
I think it was last year.
Last year.
Yeah, it was a few years ago. And then if you want to really date this, technically 2 years now.
You're gonna say it'd be an awkward rendezvous in heaven between her and Pope John Paul II.
Yeah.
Why you tear up my picture? Why you tear up my picture?
I like Sinead.
I'm gonna take a restaurant.
I gotta say, the worst thing was the week after when it was Joe Pesci, and he talked about how he would have given her such a smack, and I'm like, wow, we were okay with physical abuse.
You're right. We were okay with people being douchebags.
The picture back up.
Why not go after the Beatles for Eleanor Rigby? You know, probably anti-Catholic stuff in there. You know.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Take care, Mac.
Thank you.
Thanks for being on here. No,
Yeah,
I think we said all we were going to say. It was just really, I was glad we were able to finally do this. I just knew we were talking about it for a while. And it was like, yeah, I mean, but it's good to look at just innocent times of this as opposed to now where someone does a video and you're like, God, no one said anything. Yeah, that is kind of shitty.
Well, I'm going to say this right now. When you're talking about Kurt Loder, I can remember when Kurt Cobain, we all remember Kurt Cobain dying. And for the next 3 days, it was like Kurt Cobain, Nirvana, what happened? I can remember what happened?
Yeah.
I can remember the news breaking when they said, police have found the body of, 27-year-old frontman Kurt Cobain dead in his, I think it was his garage in his home in Seattle. What we didn't realize was that he was in a treatment center 3 days before that.
Mm-hmm.
He signed himself out and he went home, and he had overdosed before that in Italy, and they were saying Nirvana was just about to break up,
right?
And then look what happens. The Foo Fighters come along,
a
year later, which is amazing, but
stuff.
I don't mean to be trivial, but is Cobain in the 27 Club as well?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, just like Jonathan Brandis.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we have such great people like Mama. Yeah, we got people like Janis Joplin, Jimi Hendrix, and we got the kid from Sequest.
Yeah. Yeah. Brian Jones. Let's see. Brian Jones, Pigpen McKernan. Trying to think who else. Robert Johnson's in the 27 Club.
Jimi Hendrix.
Jim Morrison.
Did the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame always air on HBO, or are they just the latest one to host it?
They did the big concert in '95. And I can remember that concert. They had the Kinks, the Gin Blossoms. I can remember Iggy Pop coming out with Soul Asylum, doing Backdoor Man by the Doors. He says, "I fuck more women than I eat more pussy than any man's ever seen." Everybody went, "Oh, he said that?" You know. I can remember Chuck Berry coming out doing Johnny Be Good. I can remember Bruce Hornsby doing a tribute for Jerry Garcia. When he played something that he went into I Know You Rider.
I know you.
Mama Cass was 32.
Was 32,
I know
okay.
she died in the same flat that Harry Nilsson owned that Keith Moon died in as well.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So what you're telling me is that place is all haunted.
Well, the Nilsson died as well. I don't know if he died there too, but yeah.
Died in Los
Or
Angeles,
at the very
had a
least,
massive heart attack.
or at the very least, it serves killer ham sandwiches.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, and I think one of the the Phillips from
that guy.
Mamas and the Papas, that she was on Gilbert Gottfried's podcast. She said that's a myth about the sandwich. It was in the room, but she didn't show up.
Michelle Phillips. She had basically, what had happened was she was yo-yo dieting, and it put a strain on her heart. And she was just about to do, or she had done the London Palladium, and she was getting rave reviews for it.
Yeah.
But what happened was she lost 150 pounds.
Nice.
Put it on, took it off again, and then she had a massive heart attack.
Damn.
You know.
Yes.
Yes, but it's funnier my way.
Yeah. It's funny when you say a ham sandwich. Hey, it's like I believe Dennis Leary said one of the best jokes was, I believe Mama Cass said the best when she said, you know.
Wow.
I got some fun trivia. What do Mama Cass, Lulu, To Sir With Love, and Steve Martin have in common?
Banjos?
No.
I don't know.
Let me think.
They all did stand-up comedy in the 1970s while high on cocaine?
1970 part is right.
Chico needed the money.
1970 part is right.
I all worked with Groucho Marx when I was doing this Hollywood Palace.
It has to do with summer replacement TV shows.
Oh, they're all
The Summer Brothers show.
They're all regulars. They're all regulars on Andy Williams Presents Ray Stevens.
Oh, I didn't know that.
There's tons of videos. They actually do. Cass and Lulu and Stevens all sing that. They do some really good songs. They covered Lord Nyro. It's an underrated show. For the music, the comedy was pretty lame, and Steve Martin was starting to be Steve Martin too.
Nice.
Yeah, you can YouTube him. So
I worked with Ray Stevens in 1970.
Probably did.
This is when I was doing my tour with my one-man show, and I came out and sang Lydia the Tattooed Lady. Oh, Lydia, and you sing Lydia the Tattooed Lady.
Groucho Marx, everybody.
I do know the Guess Who showed up and did American Woman on that show as well. So
the Guess Who did go on there. Yeah.
See, is that Lenny Kravitz in the background there? Because now I'm thinking of American Woman.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I'll send you one song that. Yeah.
Well, this was delightful, I think.
Follow us on the web on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. The podcast is available on Podbean, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Anchor, Apple, and anywhere else podcasts are available. Feel free to review our show and leave comments on any of those sites. Thanks a million for listening. It's a jacked up